All right. We will get started. We can sing Blessed Assurance. I will try to play the piano for y'all. I don't know what page number that is. I could act like I'm reading the music. Oh, I don't know. I can act like I'm reading music. Huh? 572. Y'all do your best. Don't let me distract you too much. This is the same one I'm playing last time. I'll get this one down good. All right, you good? I apologize in advance. Here we go. Oh, sorry, I forgot the chorus. Y'all go ahead. I'll pick you up.
This is my story. This is my song. Praise my Savior.
Yeah, all right. All right. Perfect, I might say. We'll be lucky if somebody ain't watching that tries to recruit you. I've been called the Mozart of my generation. Did Mozart even play the piano? I think he did. Beethoven. Anyway, moving on. Matthew chapter 22. It's not the skill, it's the heart with which you try. Parable of the marriage feast, chapter 22. And Jesus answered and spake unto them again by parables, and said, The kingdom of heaven is like unto a certain king, which made a marriage for his son, and sent forth his servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. Again, he sent forth other servants, saying, Tell them which are bidden, Behold, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all things are ready. Come unto the marriage. But they made light of it, and went their ways, one to his farm, another to his merchandise. Moving to verse 6. And the remnant took his servants, and entreated them spitefully, and slew them. But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth, and he sent forth his armies, and destroyed their murderers, and burned up their cities. So we'll stop right there for just to kind of recap. Now, verses 2, the kingdom of heaven is like to a certain king, the king being God, which made a marriage for his son being Jesus Christ, is the bridegroom. If he's the bridegroom, who is the bride? That is the church, that already saved. Okay? Now, when he says in verse 4, again, he sent forth verse 3, he sent forth the servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. And he sent forth other servants, saying, Tell them which are bidden, Behold, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatlings are killed, all things are ready, come to the marriage. And they made light of it, they went their ways, one to his farm, another to his merchandise. And then when he sent them out again, they took the remnant, took his servants, and they killed them. So what he's saying in this parable in verses 3, 4, 5, and 6 is that his servants are us, being sent out unto the other people, witnesses, soul winning, inviting them to salvation, inviting them to the wedding feast in heaven. In essence, he's saying he's sending people out to lead others to the Lord. Okay? And so they wouldn't come. They didn't want to hear it. So he sent other servants out. Maybe not the same people that are soul winning to the same individual, right? Or individuals. But he sent other servants out and said, the time has come. Either judgment day or salvation. Everything's ready. But they made light of it and went their ways. And what that means is when you go out door to door, somebody tells you, oh, you're just a Bible thumper. You're just crazy. This doomsday, floating caskets by people. It's not a big deal. I'll get right later. I'll get saved later. Or I don't believe it at all. And in verse 6, he said, took his servants and entreated them spitefully and slew them. He's talking about the martyrs that have been killed because of their faith, either. And that continues on now, right? But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth and sent forth his armies and destroyed their murderers and burned up their cities. That is the judgment of God upon the world, and especially what he's talking about is those that have martyred his saints. Saint being somebody that's saved. We're all saints, right? Now, not in the sense that saints is imperfect as we understand it, the saint of God is one that is saved. Then said he to his servants, the wedding is ready, but they were, which were bidden were not worthy. Go ye therefore to the highways, and as many as ye shall find, bid to the marriage. Here's another verse that explains to you, go into the highways, in the highways and the hedges. We've heard that song. That is where you're supposed to go to bid them to the wedding, and the wedding is salvation. Heaven. So their servants went out to the highways and gathered together all as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. And when the king came in to see the guests, he saw there a man which had not on a wedding garment. And he said unto him, Friend, how camest thou in hither, not having a wedding garment? He was speechless. Then said the king to the servants, Bind him hand and foot, take him away, cast him into outer darkness, there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Even though the gentleman that was not prepared his garment, he was not wearing a garment for the wedding. It's just a different example of heaven and God's judgment. Jesus called him friend. He knew he wasn't prepared to meet Jesus. He was unsaved. He was speechless. So that is a picture of standing in judgment in front of God. And God saying, you can consider garments the blood of Christ. Blood-washed garments that are white as snow. Right? So if somebody isn't wearing wedding garments, then that's just somebody that's unsaved that's standing in front of judgment, that great white throne judgment of God, right? And they get, the Lord looks at them and says, how come you aren't ready? You're not saved. And when he says bound in hand and foot, which shows it's not his choice, right? He's condemned. And there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Hell. Then said the king to the servants, bind him hand and foot, cast him into outer darkness. For many are called, but few are chosen. That is the main verse in this section. There are going to be a lot of people that are called to Christ. Everybody witnessed to. And even or have been witnessed to. So there are going to be people that refuse it, and that's what he's talking about. So that parable is talking about the marriage supper, and it's talking about salvation and preparing to go to heaven. There's going to be servants, people, Christians, us, that are sent out to bid as many come as we can. And they're not going to. And even some are going to be killed, and it shows God's judgment on those. And then the great white throne, when the guest that wasn't ready said he was speechless, right? That's what the Bible, Scripture says, he was speechless. Because he knew he wasn't ready. And that's God's judgment, right? When you're not written in the Lamb's Book of Life and cast into the lake of fire. That's what that's about. Jesus answers the Herodians. So in the next few verses, you're going to see 15 through 22, his answer to the Herodians. And then Jesus answers the Sadducees. And 23 through 33. And 34 through 40, Jesus answers the Pharisees. And then 41 through 46, he flips it, and then Jesus is asking the questions. Okay? So then went the Pharisees and took counsel how they might entangle him in his talk. What do y'all think that means? They came to a council together, right? How they might entangle him in his talk. Trap him, trick him. And they sent out unto him their disciple with the Herodians, saying, Master, we know that thou art true and teachest the way of God in truth, neither carest thou for any man, for thou regardest not the person of men. Tell us, therefore, what thinkest thou? Is it lawful to give tribute unto Caesar or not? But Jesus perceived their wickedness. So they were trying to trip him up. You all know what they were trying to do right there. So when it says, is it lawful to give tribute unto Caesar? What they are doing is if he answers yes, guess who he makes mad? The Jews. If he answers no, then he's an open defilement or define openly the Roman government, and which would consider him a threat that they would take out at that point. Because that's what Barabbas was an instigator. He created uprisings and stuff like that. But so they were trying to trip him up. Either you know that saying, if you do, if you don't, you know, same thing. But Jesus perceived their wickedness and said, why tempt me, ye hypocrites? Well, if that ain't an image of what's to come. He's just getting warmed up right there. Show me the tribute money. And they brought unto him a penny, and he said unto him, whose image, or who is this image in superscription or writing? They said unto him, Caesar's. Then saith he unto them, render therefore to Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and to God the things which are God's. So a lot of the Jews, just so you know, at the time thought that Jesus being, or the Messiah, the deliverer, they think that the Messiah is going to be the one that comes to free them, that conquers everybody and that sets up their nation, right? They're not thinking of the heavenly kingdom, which is what Jesus is talking about. So when he says, render the things, pay your taxes, obey the law, but give God your soul. That's what God wants. When they heard these words, they marveled and left him and went their way. So they realized at that point, well, he's probably a little too witty for us. We tried to trap him and we couldn't. So then you can see the Sadducees saying, move out of the way, we'll take care of it. Then came the same day came to him the Sadducees, which say that there is no resurrection, and asked him, saying, Master, Moses said, if a man die having no children, his brother shall marry his wife, and raise up seed unto his brother. Now there were with us 7 brethren, and the first, when he had married a wife, deceased, and having no issue, left his wife with his brother. Likewise the second also, and the third unto the 7th. And last of all, the women died also. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be at these 7, or of these 7? For they all have her. Jesus answered and said unto them, Ye do err, not knowing the Scriptures, nor the power of God. For in the resurrections they neither marry, nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. So a lot of people, that might answer a question of, are you going to know your wife as your wife in heaven? Right? Because see, if the resurrection is true, and she's been married 7 times or given to 7 different brothers, which is what they call like a kinsman redeemer. So if she marries all 7 of the brothers, so when they get to heaven, or when she resurrects, they resurrect. Whose wife is she going to be? And he says, his answer, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. But as touching the resurrection of the dead, have ye not read that which was spoken to you by God, saying, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. And when the multitude heard this, they were astonished at his doctrine. So now you see the Herodians that came at Jesus with a loaded question. They didn't accomplish their mission. They decided, hey, look, we're done. We can't do it. The Sadducees, step out of the way, we'll take care of it. And then he sent them back. They couldn't accomplish it. Now here come the Pharisees. But when the Pharisees had heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence, they were gathered together. Then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him and saying, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So you see, they try to get him to differentiate the severity of the laws or the punishment of the laws. And that he says that you love the Lord first with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. You give yourself completely to him. And also you love your neighbor as much as yourself. And on these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So he's saying that he wouldn't answer them the answer they wanted. So now he doesn't stop there. While the Pharisees were gathered together, instead of them asking questions, Jesus asked them a question. While the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them, saying, What think ye of Christ? Whose son is he? They say unto him, The son of David. He saith unto them, How then doth David in spirit call him Lord? Saying, The Lord said unto my Lord, Sit thou on my right hand till I make thine enemies thy footstool. If David then call him Lord, how is he his son? And no man was able to answer him a word, neither durst any man from that day forth ask him any more questions. So as you go through the book of Matthew, right, you have the Pharisees following Jesus everywhere he went. Everywhere he went, they tried to trip him up, they tried to intervene, they tried to instigate the people against him, they tried to confuse him. But right here in verse 46, and from that day forth asked him no more questions. Any more questions? There were no more questions that they asked him after 22 chapters of questioning. So that's it in a nutshell. I know it's very quick, but I don't think y'all require much more elaboration than that. So you see what the marriage feast is. You know what it is. You know who the servants are. You know who the king is. You know what the marriage feast is. You know who the son is. You know who the servants are. You know when they're getting sent out, what that means. You know what the judgment is when he destroys the ones that have killed his martyrs, or martyred his martyrs. And then you see the guy that's standing in front of God in judgment that's not prepared, i.e. is not saved, and being cast into the lake of fire. And then you see the question of the Herodians, the Sadducees, and the Pharisees trying to ask him, and his answers. But now, at the end of, in verse 46, it doesn't stop there. Jesus doesn't stop. He keeps going. And this is where we get into the woes pronounced or denounced upon the Pharisees, where basically he just blisters them. And now, we covered that in 20 minutes. We can break it down and we can all have a discussion about what that means to each one of us if you'd like to. I'm not going to start 23 because 23 I would like to take a little extra time with, because each one of those woes should be described and explained in detail, because it's not just Pharisees that they're being, that he's denouncing the woes upon us. It's everybody, even today. So what part do y'all have any questions of chapter 22? And if it's got easier for you, I mean, it makes sense. One, you've studied it, you've read it. You're picking it up a lot faster. So you may not have any questions. But, what?
On the one part where it says, talking about that he came in without wedding clothes on, what's that? What do you mean by that?
So, as I said,
Does
when
that mean he wasn't covered in the blood?
he was not saved, when it says that the king asked him, why did you come here unprepared? That is picture when he's saying that, and they bind him hand and foot, cast him into outer darkness, there should be weeping, gnashing of teeth. So what he's saying is that guest that wasn't ready was speechless when the king questioned it. So, for example, or what you need to picture is this man standing in front of God on Judgment Day.
Yeah.
And he's saying, how come you're not prepared? How come you're not saved? And the man has no answer, because he knows he's had the opportunity. And when it says he was bound hand and foot, it means he was condemned and thrown into the lake of fire. That is a parable of God's great white throne of judgment.
Okay, and then God is one that was talking about the feast for his son, which the son is Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
The feast is the wedding, which is heaven.
Right. You've always heard of the great wedding banquet, and the church being the bride, Jesus being the bridegroom. But all that means is we are, as a wedding, you two become one. So we become like we were before the fall of man. Glorification, in a nutshell, which is only obtainable in heaven. Your glorified body. Right? So I know that was quick, but it's just important to break down. So for example, when he said he sent his servants out, those are the servants that went. Okay? Some servants went, different servants went, then other servants went, and they got killed. But that's mentioned in the servants that went. How many servants do you think were called to go that didn't go? Today, like nowadays. How many servants do you think are there of Christ that won't go? That won't go so then? I mean, I'm not asking you to give a specific number.
Probably a lot.
But I'm saying there are servants that will have blood on their hands for all the souls that they were.
They went to heaven.
And I think that while it won't condemn you, I think you're going to have to answer to God for why you didn't do the simplest of things that He asked you to do.
And that's more so like what we do.
Yeah, not just on specific days,
No, you
right?
do it anytime.
Anytime when you walk by somebody and you feel the tug or conviction, like the Holy Spirit's moving you to hey, I need to talk to this guy or girl, and you don't because a lot of people claim, well, I'm introverted. I'm introverted, but when it comes to that you have to. It's not a request. It's a command.
He's what I was gonna say, he's gonna command you to do it.
To go forth and evangelize the world. Go forth. Jesus wasn't asking us if we had time. He wasn't asking us if we didn't have anything else going on. He didn't ask us if, it agrees with us. He says to do it. So there are going to be plenty that go to heaven and have never won a soul to Christ. And I think that's simply because they didn't try.
It's, you did read through 2 Timothy, actually, you guys are talking about that, it's across the scripture. In 2 Timothy 2:11, it is a faithful saying, for if we be dead with you, we shall be also alive with you. If we suffer, we shall reign with you.
Mm-hmm.
If we deny him, he shall deny us. If we believe not, yet he abideth faithful, he cannot deny himself.
Pretty much sums it up. And also when he said that God is not God of the dead, but of the living. Which means God is not your father if you are not saved. Period. That's what that means. A lot of people don't like hearing that. They think God loves everybody. We're all God's children, and that is false.
Let's see. Also, 2 Timothy. Yes. I charge thee therefore before God and Lord Jesus Christ, who shall judge the quick and the dead at his appearing in his kingdom. Preach the word, be instant,
In another season.
you know, see, whether it's popular or not.
Yes.
Revoke, reprove, rebuke, exhort,
Yes.
and long suffering and doctrine. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall he leap to themselves teachers having
Itching ears.
years.
Yes.
No, sorry about the reading, I can barely see it.
You're fine.
I'm wearing reading glasses.
I think we need to do more of that. Everybody read. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I don't care if it would take you 30 minutes to read. I think,
I just have trouble seeing it.
yeah, I think it's great. But that's true. Now, it's funny, the rebuke, reprove, and exhort is what, say, for example, a pastor should to a congregation. Now, there's a whole lot of reproving and exhorting, not a whole lot of rebuking going on. Because it's not a popular thing to do, because the church members get mad and then they want to leave. And, well, I tithe X amount every month or every Sunday, whatever. It doesn't matter. And that reminds me, I was watching Little House on the Prairie, and they needed a church bill. And the richest people, the Olsons, wanted to buy the church bill for the church. They wanted a plaque. And the guy stood up, this is God's house, and their name shouldn't be on it. And that's 100% true. So if somebody would come in here and donate, $10,000 for whatever, and they're like, well, just put a plaque on it saying I donated it. No, absolutely not. Since when does you serving God in the way that you should be serving God require any sort of recognition for yourself? It's wrong. And there'll be no. Now, these are just people that have passed on, but I'm talking about somebody that buys or that thinks that they donate a significant amount of money that they need to be held above the others and have a plaque with their name on the wall. Right? And that is to say, I donate more than Tanya, who left $1. So she shouldn't have a plaque because she gave $1. What does the Bible say about the pennies, where the woman put the offering in the plate? That it was greater to him because she gave what she had.
Corinthians says, God loves a cheerful giver.
Yeah, and that she gave what she had, as opposed to, so you have $1 million and you give 5,000. That's a lot of money in a tithe, in an offering plate. But then somebody gives 50 cents, but it's the last 50 cents they added. To God, he's going to look at it and say, that's their last 50 cents. You gave 5,000 that's half of a percent. So to God, somebody that gives what they have and trusts him for providence means more to God. So what I mean by that is just that some people, when they give a lot of money, they would expect something in return. Well, I want to be recognized for it. They keep it. That's like I said, if Elon Musk, for example, would come down here and be like, for whatever reason, he's in Moncton. Maybe he's flying by in one of these spaceships and he's like, look at that poor church. I want to go down there and help them. And he comes down here and he was like, I'll rebuild the church as big as you want it, wherever you want it. I'll buy the land. I'll pay the bills for life. Just change the name of the church. Or, I've been struggling with this. I can't sleep at night. Tell me because I'm good and I'm donating money that I'll go to heaven. And I'll give you the money. And my answer to that, which obviously is a hypothetical, the answer to that would be, can't do it, sorry. Or if you're requiring your name to be put on the church, can't do that either, sorry. He's not going to hold another place above somebody that can tithe $2, because we're all equal in God's eyes, and even more so the ones that donate everything they have, or tithe what they have, or all that they possibly can. You know, but the point of that is I can't, nor this church while I'm standing here, can't be bought by anybody on that side. Like the Southern Baptists have said, you know, go join the organization, we'll help you. Otherwise, hope y'all can swim. Your basement's flood. And I don't want to be a part of an organization where membership is required to help another church. It's not godly. I won't be a part of it. But now that, I don't know. But that's just where I stand on that. You know, I've never liked, of course, I've never been one that's been able to tithe a lot either. I've never been wealthy, ever. So, I mean, I might feel differently, I doubt it, but I might feel differently if for some reason I had a bunch of money. I really honestly still don't think I would want recognition up on the wall in church. So they don't. Unless we put up a plaque, and what if that comes to that state where church members want recognition for doing their job, right? We could get like a little board up here and put little gold stars. Hey, John tithe today. Congratulations, you did what God asked you to do. You know. So I mean, there's no one congregation member greater than others, despite what they do. And I'm still working on that sermon. It's called Dollar on the Pew. Does that mean a lot to me when I saw that?
I just walked by and happened to see.
Yeah, that meant a lot to me when I saw it. That meant more to me than Elon Musk landing his spaceship out there and putting $1 million in the plane. Because there's strings attached, you know there is, with Elon Musk.
Yeah.
But first off, again, obvious hypothetical. I don't think he's flying by in a spaceship, and I don't think he would land it out here. And even if he did, I don't think he would help us. And even if he did, I don't think he would have wheels on his aircraft when he went back out. So.
I don't know, but here he might be okay.
Yeah, that's a joke. But it's there's a lot to, when you truly start getting into the Bible, you start studying it, it opens itself up to you. So you start to gain the deeper meanings and understandings of it, and how things tie into each other. Like the bread and the wine, Melchizedek, the manna, it all starts coming together, and you realize there's a lot of people churches that don't preach out of the Old Testament because they feel like they'll take the Bible and the Old Testament's for the Israelites, the Jews, and the New Testament's for the church. That's what they think. There are some churches that preach just solely on the New Testament. That's not correct. Because the Old Testament is leading up to the New Testament. The Old Testament is saying Jesus is coming, and the New Testament is Jesus is here. Right? So it all goes together. But when you start studying it, paying attention to it, put some effort into it.
On verses 41 through 46, it says that, hold on, I'm sorry. The son of David, they're calling Jesus the son of David.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
Because he came through David's lineage. Remember how we were talking about Isaac and, okay? So that's, or the root of David is another term that they use. But the son of David is, Jesus came through the line of David. So what he's asking him is, David called the Lord, Lord. So how, if Jesus is his son, how's he calling him Lord if he's his son, right?
Right.
Because they didn't exist at the same time. Well, now, physically, Jesus existed prior to his birth. So, you know, the angel of the Lord.
Also calling the son of David, that's fulfilled with prophecy, because the Messiah was to come over the line of David.
Right.
It's, just clarity in the Messiah.
Mm-hmm. And you know, y'all remember Jericho? Speaking of the line of David? Yep. The walls were so big, there were houses inside. But there was one person in particular who we would consider, or a lot of people would consider nobodies. Prostitute Rahab. You know that she's in the lineage of Jesus? Scarlet thread. And her house was the only one left standing.
But she helped
But
Israel.
Yep. Let them escape spots.
What do you say? I'll make sure the angel of the
Yep.
Lord knows to pass over your.
So when you get into it, you start studying it. Sometimes I think, I've got more questions than I did before I studied it. But that's a good thing. That's the Lord leading you. So when you, yes, that's Him leading you the way He wants you to go.
It's like a whole Garden of Gethsemane thing when I found out.
Yep.
what Gethsemane means.
What does Gethsemane mean?
Opus.
Tell them the significance of it. Now, she's talking about the Garden of Gethsemane where Jesus was what?
Jesus was praying and was.
He was sweating blood.
And he was sweating blood, and then Gethsemane means oil press, which they pressed olives there and made oil. And that's the Mount of Olives. And then those same olives that they got the oil from, they anointed. Who was it they anointed there? They used the oil to anoint the Roman soldiers or the Romans in Jerusalem or in the city.
So Gethsemane means oil press.
I mean, Jesus, it was saying that he was pressed like an oil press. That's why he was sweating blood in the garden.
He was pressed like an olive in the Garden of Gethsemane, which Gethsemane means oil press.
Press.
Olive press, oil press. And when he was sweating blood, he was being pressed like an olive. And then you can go back and look through the significance of the Bible of olive oil, olive presses,
Mount of Olives.
Mount of Olives. And he was being pressed. That's why he was sweating blood. See, when you get into that kind of stuff, you're like, you know, it should be anyway. You know, it should excite you. You know, but that was very exciting. I thought it was very good that you figured that out. But I think that means a lot. And that's what I always say is there's no wasted words in the Bible. There's nothing in there that isn't for a reason. So when he mentions eagles, I go and look up, okay, in the significance of this verse, why is he talking about an eagle? Why does he feel it necessary to mention eagle? So you go look up what an eagle does, and then in nature, right? And then it matches up perfectly with that verse it's in, and you're just, you know, again, there's nothing in there that he didn't put in there for a reason. That is why nothing should be removed, changed, or taken out or added to. Right? I know that was quick, but you know, I mean, if it's not, yeah, my eye hurts. My galley threw the cat on my face and scratched my eye.
Like an eyelash or something.
But there's no reason to continue, you know. What I mean is we cut it short. Real short, 15 minutes. I'll get Robbie to dismiss us in prayer. Also, if y'all feel the need while he is praying, the altar's open. Just so y'all know as well, the altar's always open. It doesn't have to be an invitation. Right? It doesn't have to be an invitation for you to pray. If you feel the need to pray during church, if I'm ever up here preaching, you come pray. It's not gonna stop you. Probably whenever you're ready.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, thank you for all the visions you give us. Lord, look after us, see that we get to walk in your guiding light. Lead us out of temptation, see that we don't chase earthly or fleshly things. Keep us safe throughout the week.